Fishy, fishy, fishy!
What's up, fishy friends? Rich here, Rich's Fishes, doing some maintenance, some water changes in the fish room. Currently working on the Juvie Tiger Turk tank. Thought I'd shoot a quick update. The Juvie Tiger Turks are doing really well. As I've said before, these fish were quite skittish, and then I added in my my DIY LED light over here, and it seems to have really helped things. These guys are definitely still growing out, and I'm still attempting to do 50% water changes daily, if not more. I do miss a day here and there. Life gets in the way. Sometimes I have to skip a day of water changes, and then I'll end up doing a 75 to as big as 90% water change to make up for the day I missed. But today we're shooting for about a 50% water change. Try to keep this discus tank as clean as possible while these young juveniles grow out. Discus, I don't know, they're a bit more sensitive than some other fish and require a bit more care. And those smarter than me have suggested this is the right way to do it. And I've had some success like this in the past, and hopefully these guys keep doing what they're doing. Let's see, speaking of discus, I am on day... Let me check my notes over here in my wonderful DIY vinyl gutter shelving trough rack. I'm on day 3 of treating this discus. I'm using a combination of Marison 2 and this Marison Oxy. Just like when I started a treatment a couple of weeks ago when this fish was in a different tank of a different antibiotic, I was dosing Furan and Furan 2, and similarly to what I saw then, I'm all of a sudden seeing a big improvement in the fish. It looks like both gills are operating simultaneously. Of course, I can't get a direct head-on shot to show it, but this gill on the fish's left side of the body, the one that's pointing to us now, previously that was the one that was pumping away furiously when the other gill didn't do anything. And now it kind of looks like he's using both gills in unison, which is definitely a plus. I'm not quite ready to say that we're out of the woods yet. Again, my biggest problem with this fish is that I don't really know what it's afflicted with. I don't know what I'm treating for, but I did, as I had talked about, I did lower the water level and dropped it down to a little more than half. It's probably less than 10 gallons in here, and now I'm only treating for 10 gallons of water, so I could save a couple of bucks. I don't have to use quite as many meds to serve the same purpose. And this was the fish that was over here in this tank with these two that are left. These two still look perfectly fine. I have no reason right now to think that there's anything affecting these guys. I certainly would have assumed that whatever's affecting that other fish that I'm treating behind me would have also affected these fish, since they were in the same tank together for, well, they've been in the same tank ever since I got them over a year ago now. And I'm baffled as to why that smallest fish was affected by something when these two larger fish seem absolutely fine this entire time. They've never shown any gill issues. They've gotten quite big. I think they got a real nice shape. These are also fish that I raised out from tiny, tiny juveniles, doing daily 50% water changes. And the proof is in the pudding. These fish turned out pretty well. My other red Turks over here, doing perfectly fine. All the angels over here, after moving that big guy in, there was a little bit of aggression, there was a little bit of a transition period, but everything seems pretty good now. And it almost seems like those two might be pairing off. They seem to hang out together, and any of the other large angels, if they come by, they get chased away. I wouldn't say there's too much aggression. Aggression should be expected from cichlids, like angels. And there is going to be some fin nipping, there's going to be a hierarchy, there's always got to be a tank boss, and anybody that gets in the way of that tank boss is going to get picked on a little bit. I don't see anything that concerns me. I don't see any reason to try to separate the fish or anything like that, so I'm not worried about that currently. And I will just let them keep doing their thing, and eventually I'll probably move these last two over into that tank as well. We'll see about that. Over here, the Apistogramma trifasciata, I did end up losing the biggest of the three that I have in here the other day. I'm not exactly sure why. I had noticed the biggest one, the one that I ended up losing. One day he was swimming kind of funny. It almost looked like a swim bladder issue or some constipation. And now that one looks a little funny too. That one's got a weird... It's not a kink in his spine. It's almost like he's purposefully bending his body in an odd way. I don't know if he's going to get picked up on the camera there because he's in a shadow hiding out under the driftwood. So I'm not exactly sure why I lost that largest one, and I'm not very happy about that. But I wish I knew what was up. So it was swimming funny one day. It almost looked like a swim bladder, indoor constipation thing. The next day, he was perfectly fine. The day after that, he was dead. Red cherry shrimp hanging out in the Tetra tank, feasting on some floating blackworms. Surprisingly enough, I didn't expect to see the shrimp take to that so much. I don't go out of my way to necessarily feed the shrimp in this tank. I'll let them scavenge on whatever's going on. I'll throw an algae wafer in every once in a while. I threw a cube of freeze-dried blackworms in this tank for the tetras. I don't typically offer that to them, but thought they might enjoy a treat. Looks like they've essentially ignored it, but the red cherries have found it now that it's up there and floating. The red cherries are surprisingly doing really, really well in that tank. The Endla colony is doing really well. So difficult to film these guys. They're tiny. There's so much movement and activity in this tank, and it's hard for the camera to focus on any one. These are black bar endlers. I have been thinking of trying to separate out the males. Not that I want the breeding to stop necessarily, but I feel like if I'm ever going to sell any of these fish, it's the males that are visually stunning and might be appealing to someone. So if I can get a big batch of males only, maybe I can try starting to sell them to my local fish store. Over here, the rainbow fish in the 72 bowfront tank. 2 fish have spawned for me in this tank. There is fry in this tank currently. I don't see any right now. Sometimes if I hang out and look at the top of the tank here, right at the surface of the water, I've seen as many as 5 fry at once, and it's so completely surprising because I didn't realize there was any spawning activity going on in this tank. I've let all the floating plants essentially just go crazy and overtake the top of the tank. Sorry for the abrupt pause there. I just realized I had emptied far more water out of this tank than I had intended on. I got the heater completely exposed in the air, which is never a good situation. It's about to get resubmerged again. That's always a dangerous situation when the heater, if the heater's on and hot and all of a sudden gets exposed to the air, it dramatically cools off, and then when it gets hit by the water again, that's when you run the risk of cracking. Oh man, this steam coming off the heater. I might be in trouble here. Oh, I think we're okay. It's completely submerged. That could have been a dangerous situation. When the heater's exposed to the air, it doesn't like dramatic temperature swings immediately, and you definitely run the risk of cracking the glass with a situation like that. That was not a good thing for me to have done. I should have been paying more attention. I was too busy filming and talking. But if the heater was going to shatter, it likely would have shattered immediately as soon as the water hit it again. I shouldn't have just been sitting here filming. I should have been doing something different. Anyway, no harm, no foul, I suppose. Now I'm not exactly sure if I got the temperature right on the incoming water. Yeah, I think we're okay. Anyway, so what was I saying? Bowfront, 72 gallon, rainbow fish, spawning activity. I was unaware. I don't want to say I've ignored this tank, because that's not the case. I haven't ignored it necessarily, but I've had plans to turn this into my discus tank. I wanted to replant this and eventually rehome these rainbow fish and basically just have this be a planted discus display tank. So I've let all the floating plants just go crazy. That Amazon sword has sent out multiple runners. Matter of fact, I think a runner sent out a runner. A runner split in 2 with all those daughter plants. So the top half of the tank is just, you can almost walk on it. That's how much plant life is up there and plant matter, which is fantastic for rainbow fish, and specifically for rainbow fish to breed. They like to scatter their eggs up in some floating plants and things like that, and that's what they do. And obviously that's what happened, and I just didn't even notice it because there's fry in the tank, and I doubt it's the remaining cardinal tetras I have in here. I only have 1 red-tailed black shark, and the only other fish in here are various rainbows. I got 2 male dwarf neon praycocks, and the rest I'm not even sure. I think I have a male and a female bosemani. It's possible it's bosemani, but rainbow fish will interbreed with one another, so to say. So it could be the red rainbow and a bosemani or anything else. I don't know if I'll ever be able to confirm that. It's been about 24 hours since I last saw the fry. They were relatively tiny still. I'd seen them 2 or 3 days in a row. I don't see any today, but that doesn't mean they're all gone. It's a relatively large tank with a lot of hiding area for small fish like that. So it'd be interesting to see if those grow up and turn into anything. So I'm going to continue treating this guy up here for another, what did I say? This was day 3. I'll get another 2 days of treatment before I do a water change. And the medicine packets, you know, say you can do a second course, you know, a second round of treatment immediately thereafter. So I might end up doing that. We'll see. It depends on what this fish looks like and how he progresses. I do have some other meds I still intend on using on this guy, even if he does look better in the end. But it'd be nice if I could say this guy was back to being healthy, and maybe then I can add him into this tank, where I also plan on taking those two and adding them over there eventually also. Anyway guys, that's it for now. Comment, rate, subscribe. I'll see you guys.